book called Chester the Brave. It's about a raccoon who learns the meaning of bravery and a method for overcoming his fears. I think in this time, we all need to overcome some things, especially just the fear of what's going on and learning how to navigate all this. So, let's listen to Chester the Brave. Chester Raccoon sat snuggled in his mother's lap. The last golden rays of sunshine shone through the tree hole, and his younger brother Ronnie still lay curled up fast asleep on the far side of their hollow. "This is my very best time," Chester told his mother, lifting his eyes to hers. "This is my very best time too," she told him sweetly. Do you still want to tell me about the time about the little robin?" "Yes, please." "Well," Mrs. Raccoon began her story, "the little robin stepped up to the edge of the nest, bent his little legs, lifted his tiny wings and said, 'I can't, I'm too afraid,' and hopped right back into the safety of the nest." "He was afraid to fly?" asked Chester. "Yes, he was," answered Mrs. Raccoon. Chester looked very worried. He drooped his head and stuck out his lower lip. Did the little robin think it was okay to be afraid?" "He thought it meant he wasn't brave," explained Chester's mother. "You see, the little robin's mother and sister flew their very first time, and he thought that meant they were very brave. And if they were very brave, he thought it meant he wasn't." Chester appeared very upset. "Was he right?" he asked his mother. Mrs. Raccoon smoothed the fur out on top of Chester's head. "Well," she told him, "the little robin's father explained that his brother and sister weren't brave. They simply weren't bothered." Chester lifted his head and peered up at his mother. "What does that mean?" Mrs. Raccoon laughed. The little robin wasn't sure what it meant either, so his father asked him if it bothered him when he was eating worms. "Oh, yuck!" shrieked Chester. "That's disgusting. What did he say?" "He said he wasn't bothered eating worms at all. He said he loved eating worms, especially the big, long, thick, stretchy kind." "Oh, lech!" bleated Chester. His nose and mouth twisted and squished together, and his tiny body shuddered. "Eating worms would bother me." Mrs. Raccoon nodded. "It would bother me too," she confessed. Then the little robin's father asked him if he was bothered when he was singing, and the little birdie began tweeting and said he wasn't bothered at all when he was singing. "Singing is a lot better than eating worms," grimaced Chester. "I agree," said Mrs. Raccoon. Then the little bird's father told him that being brave wasn't about flying when he wasn't afraid to. Being brave was about flying when he was afraid to fly, but found the courage to fly anyway because he knew he must. Then his father asked him if he was bothered when he was reciting his flying lessons in front of all the other little birdies who nestled in their tree. The poor robin got all aflutter. He hopped and down and flapped his wings just like the time the skunk sprayed down from our tree below. The little robin said that reciting his lessons in front of all the little birds was the worst thing he had to do ever in his whole life. Suddenly, Chester began to tremble, and he nestled deeper into his mother's soft, comforting arms. "Oh my," Mrs. Raccoon replied softly. "What's the matter, Chester? Is something wrong?" Chester nodded. "Reciting lessons in front of the other animals at Owl Teacher's School is the worst thing I ever had to do my whole life too," he whimpered. "Is that so?" Mrs. Raccoon gave Chester a reassuring hug, then took his tiny hand in hers and gently kissed the center of his palm. "Shall I tell you what the little robin did, or would you rather jump on top of Ronnie and wake him for school?" "I want to know what happened to the robin," Chester giggled. Well, the very next day, the little robin's mother tucked out one of her tiny little flight feathers into his wing and told him it was for good luck. So even though the little robin was still bothered about reciting his lessons, he stood in front of all the other little birdies in the tree and twittered, "I lift my head to the clouds, I push off with my feet, I flap my wings, and I let the gentle breeze take me for a ride." And while he was afraid to fly, he found the courage he needed and said, "I am very brave." Then he stepped up to the edge of his nest, spread his wings, pushed off with his feet, and away he flew. After all, he was a brave little robin. "Hooray!" clapped Chester. "Do you know what I think being brave is?" "Do you know what I think being brave is?" Chester's mother asked him. Chester shook his head. "I think being brave is about 3 little words. Think, tell, and do. If you think you can't, tell yourself you can, then do it. Mrs. Raccoon lifted Chester's hand. Do you see that kiss in your palm? Chester laughed. No. Well, it's there, and it's just for luck, just like the little robin's feather. Chester stared at his palm, jumped off his mother's lap, bent his knees, opened his arm, and yelled, I am very brave! And he ran to the other side of the hollow, and with a leaping, he landed on top of his brother. Wake up, Ron, it's time for school. Chester the Brave has to make a speech. Later that night, Chester Raccoon stood on a branch at Owl Teacher's school tree. He thought to himself, if I think I can't, I tell myself I can, and I do it. And he found all the courage he needed to tell himself, I am very brave. Then he opened his hand, and there in the middle of his palm was his mother's gentle, caring kiss for good luck. And even though Chester was still the tiny bit afraid, he recited his lesson in front of all the other animals that attended Owl Teacher's school tree. After all, Chester the Raccoon is a very brave raccoon. The end. So thank you for watching another story time with Mr. Ajami. Hopefully you guys will find something that you're brave at today. Make sure to tell me if you found something that maybe you think you couldn't do and you ended up doing. Talk to you guys later.